Welcome back, folks. This is another fabulous episode of Friday Ramblings, and for those of you who are watching these as they go live, this is your bonus episode. Yes, because I did unfortunately have to skip a regular Friday posting on the previous week, and thus made my poor suffering fans wait 14 days instead of 7. We're doing a special 2-episode double bonanza this week. As I said in the first part, for those of you who are watching this on the archives and marathoning things, not really going to be a big issue, but I am being honest with the fans and laying this stuff out. That said, in the previous episode, we discussed the Capcom MegaFranchise / Super Series, whatever your preferred unofficial term is, that is Street Fighter. So now we're going to go to the only other series that might come close in financial and pop culture significance to Street Fighter, and that is the running gunning man himself. Pew, 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 pew. The Blue Bomber, Megaman. The fighting robot, Megaman. Pew. Now, like Street Fighter, Megaman has consisted of, instead of just a simple matter of 1018, it divides its games up with a bit of timeline and occasional alternate continuity fun. And thus, you can divide it into sub-series that have minor influences or no influence at all on each other, depending on which two series you're looking at and comparing. Now, there have been many crossover games, sports games, party games, most of which were not released outside of Japan. However, for the sake of keeping this video from being a multi-hour marathon, and me discussing stuff I had never heard of before researching this video, we are going to stick to the core series. And, we're going to mention the spin-off games exist, kind of like a couple different cartoon shows have existed, a few comic book series have existed, toys have existed, but we're focusing on the main series games here. The ones that you are most likely to play and already be familiar with. Now, it all started with the series simply known as Megaman, or, in Japan, Rockman. It's a thing, a little bit of different naming convention between countries. I'm really only mentioning that because, it's going to come up later, and it's a little trivia note to throw out, just to establish, yes, I know about the name changing. Basics of the original Mega Man series is very simple and classic, which it should be since it started in the 80s, and that is that good scientist invents a bunch of robots to help society. Bitter, jealous, bad scientist kidnaps several of them and reprograms them to be evil jerks and threatens to take over the world with his now evil jerk robots. Good scientist takes his good robot that was designed to serve basically as a houseboy / metaphorical son and reconfigure him into a fighting robot known as Megaman. As a few supporting characters have been introduced over the various games, Roll, Rush, Beat, Eddie. They're a thing. As I said, we're basically breaking down the games, how the different sub-franchises were released and relate to each other, not so much the hardcore storylines of the game, so, Oh, and of course Proto Man. Proto Man's awesome. We love Proto Man. But it is what it is. We're here to discuss games, so let's discuss the main series games for the original Mega Man series, which over the years, as I said, fans pretty much either refer to it as the original Mega Man series or the classic Mega Man series, since it was the first of the sub-series as to come out, and established all the base standards of what makes the Mega Man games Mega Man games, no matter what kind of storyline, continuity, Mega Man variant they involve. So, as I said, we start with Mega Man. Then Mega Man 2. Mega Man 3, my personal favorite of the classic series, though I admit I have not played the last few that came out years after the fact. We're going to touch on that in a second. Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5, Mega Man 6. Now, these all occurred on the Nintendo Entertainment System, aka NES. Later, we would jump to Super Nintendo with Mega Man 7, Mega Man 8, which was released on the Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn, and is the first in the classic series to feature anime-style FMVs, and is the only game in which Mega Man is capable of swimming. The game also marks the 10th anniversary of the Mega Man franchise, so it is what it is. We also got, as a spin-off, kind of, not full sequel, similar to what we discussed with Street Fighter, where they had, like, upgrade versions, we had Megaman Bass. Or I guess it would be Megaman Bass, because it's supposed to be a music thing. That's part of the thing in Japan. I say he was named Rockman, and he had his sister robot Rock and Roll. Proto Man's name was Blues, so this would be bass, like the musical instrument, not Bass the fish. Mega Man in Bass. It is classified as a second version of Mega Man 8, as it uses many of that game's assets and 3 related bosses. So it is often referred to as Mega Man 8.5. This is the first game where you had the option of playing as Mega Man or a secondary character, the aforementioned Bass. And that was the last of the classic series we got for many years. Eventually, all the way forward in 2008, the classic series would return with Mega Man 9, as well as in the past 12 years, Mega Man 10 and Mega Man 11. So, the classic series happened. Put out several sequels, took a break for several years while the other franchises developed, and then came back with a vengeance with 3 other games in the series. Now that is your core main series. We are real quick going to throw out a few more games at you. We did have Game Boy games that were kind of ports and kind of not ports, in that they would take bosses from 2 different NES games at a time, along with new Dr. Wily stages at the end. So they're kind of like remix games. And whereas the main NES core series utilized standard numbering system, the Game Boy games, which are sometimes referred to as the Mega Man World series, used Roman numerals to help distinguish themselves. This series would be Mega Man and Dr. Wily's Revenge, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4, and Mega Man 5. And there were many, many spin-offs made, as I said, most of them being basically ignorable. The only 2 really worth mentioning is Mega Man The Power Battle and Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters. These are fighting games. They're not part of the main timeline story, but they are very infamous among the fandom. They have shown up in compilation games released on more modern systems. Not too confusing so far. Now, around the time Megaman 7 was released on the Super Nintendo, though, we got the first sequel series, Megaman X. Megaman X takes place in the same timeline as the Megaman series, but pushed forward 100 years. Where now robots are much more prevalent in society to the point that robots are officially policing themselves. Robots that do not serve humanity are referred to as Mavericks, and thus the robots that protect society from the Mavericks are Maverick Hunters, which is where our hero Megaman X comes in. The Megaman X was designed by the same creator as the original Megaman, Dr. Light, and was sealed away until the time of the Megaman X series. We are going to go ahead and say, as far as supplementary characters, the most important one is Zero, who originally served as Megaman X's mentor when Megaman X was first released and being trained as a Maverick Hunter. Later would become his equal ally as Megaman X grew as a hero. So, that's important to mention Zero, because you'll find that out later. So for right now, let's go ahead and break down the Megaman X games. Megaman X, which yes, did have a remake known as Megaman Maverick Hunter X. Megaman X2, Megaman Extreme, Megaman X3, Megaman Extreme 2, Megaman X4, Megaman X5, Megaman X6, Megaman X7, Megaman X8, and Megaman X Command Mission. So that brings us to, not counting the remake, that is 11 games. So, if you do count Megaman Bass as its own full game, as opposed to a remake, it's one short of the original classic series. Although Megaman X did not take a long sabbatical, it simply ran through its story and stopped. So, it kind of gets a little, at the time that the classic series took the sabbatical, Megaman X was the most prolific, at least as far as the main games go. So why do we have Extreme, Extreme 2, and Command Mission instead of just straight numberings? Well, Extreme and Extreme 2 were portable games and were developed as optional spin-offs. You don't have to play them to appreciate the story of the core franchise. They are supplemental adventures. And Megaman X Command Mission jumped genres a little and is primarily RPG influenced as opposed to the previous mentioned games, which are platform inspired. So you can play the core 8 games and get the story. But if you really, really love the timeline nature of it, there are 3 optional games to play to supplement your experience. We mentioned Zero was the most important side character, and that's because the next series, which would take place another century-odd jump, we're not 100% sure on the math there, roughly 100 years, and would focus on Zero himself, who, like Megaman X, after his initial creation, was put into stasis and later woken up a century or so later, where he would have his own adventures and continue to protect the world, mostly because the current threats were connected to the things he did in his previous adventures in the Megaman X series. Thus, the Zero series is very much a direct sequel, whereas from Classic to X, it was a indirect sequel. There's a few mentions of Dr. Light and Dr. Wily, but by and large, you don't have to play any of the Classic series to understand what's going on in the X series. It was a new fan, fresh step when Mega Man X came out. Zero, to fully appreciate everything going on, you do have to know the basics of the X storyline. So we have Mega Man 0, Mega Man 02, Mega Man 03, Mega Man 04. And that's it. Small series there, but a very well-beloved series. Zero himself, as I said, through this series, has over time become considered basically sharing the spotlight as the hero of, the same general continuity as X. Zero himself has appeared in some various spin-off crossover games, mostly alongside X. But yeah, he is a hero as much in his own right, and even though he does not have the name Mega Man in his character name, he certainly earns the right to be considered a Mega Man in his own right, as he has proven himself to be, between the X series and the Zero series, just as heroic as X. So, that gives us three kick-butt robo-protagonists. Now here's where we really get fun with storyline concepts. We have the Mega Man ZX series, and is set over 200 years after the events of the Mega Man Zero series. In this new era, the difference between human and robots, referred to as Reploids, which was a term they introduced in Mega Man X, has become non-existent, and a new combination of man and machine called humanoids has emerged. So we go from pure robots with some sentience and AI to full-blown cyborgs, for lack of a better classic term. Yes, they have their own personal humanoid term, but, to compare it to existing sci-fi concepts, humanoids would be more comparable to cyborgs than the classic androids. However, a new series of Maverick uprisings begin to occur, and heroes must step up. Now, like Zero, we break away from calling the main characters Mega Man something, and like the previous Mega Man games, you have your choice of two different characters to play, either Vent or Ele. I may have slightly mispronounced that one, but, there you go. Now, we only had two games in this series, which is Mega Man ZX and Mega Man ZX Advent, in which your two main characters is Ash and Gray. Now, because you're not looking at pure robots, the whole weapon upgrading as you beat bosses thing is tweaked. Now, because these are human-based with robotic enhancements, your characters basically merge with the hardware as they go along. Same basic principle as far as gameplay mechanics, but storyline-wise, it does make an important distinction because it does reinforce the idea that these are, well, as the game said, humanoids, not robots or Reploids. These are humans swapping out specific enhancement parts, some of whom may contain the souls of previous heroes. That's right, while there is no heroes referred to as Mega Man, some of your merge hardware certainly makes you resemble X and Zero, and maybe even Mega Man Classic. Also, that great evil behind the scenes is linked to the evil that Mega Man Zero had to beat in his own franchise. Evil, the spirit of evil, is not as easily beaten as an individual body. Now, from here, we go on to a series that is supposed to be in the same timeline, but they never give an exact amount of time jump, and it's so far down the timeline, we're talking multiple centuries here, that for all intents and purposes, storyline-wise, it is its own beast. And this is the Megaman Legends series. Now, the Megaman Legends series has 3 games in it. This would be Legends, Legends 2, and the spin-off game featuring the kind of a bad guy, but not that much of a jerk, but definitely not a highly moralistic person, Tron Bonne. In a game focused on her and her pirate family, the misadventures of Tron Bonne. Tron Bonne is a fan favorite character and has appeared in various crossover games, which is all good. There was supposed to be a Mega Man Legends 3, however the game was canceled, and over the years the fan community has continued to rally behind this and protested and demanded Capcom finish the game and release it because the Legends series was fun, and as such they wanted more in the series. Hey, never hurts to ask. Never hurts to ask 100 times. Although, given how long it's been, let me see. Go ahead and verify some of my release dates here. Yes, Mega Man Legends 2 came out in October of 2000. That means 20 years. It's getting really, really doubtful Legend 3 will ever get finished and released. I'm sorry, fans. I feel for you. But, you know, c'est la vie. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. So, when it comes to what else Mega Man did, well, they decided to go with a full-blown continuity reset. They created a new alternate timeline where the focus was not on androids and robots and eventual kind of cyborg type things, but the internet. And why not? You know, we're making games for the 21st century. The internet is what everything's based on. Yep. Now we have Megaman.execute. Well, executable. aka Megaman.exe, who exists as a NetNavi, shorthand for Internet Navigator. Basic idea being that any given person has a personal NetNavi, essentially a smartphone with a ton of AI and personality, and these NetNavis can compete against each other for bragging rights and fight evil NetNavi and AIs floating around the internet, making it unsafe for the world at large. Now again, this is a great concept for introducing a whole new continuity, because you go from the classic series, which certainly influenced the X, Zeros, and ZX, and even the Legend series, of robots and physical machinery, to the digital age. because that's what people think of now as high tech, is the digital age. And in the smartphone era, I mean, come on. We all love our portable devices, smartphones, tablets, whatnot. Could you imagine if they had a full-blown personality with them? And that personality could interact with other AI, including smacking them around, or getting smacked around if you're not lucky. Now, besides Megaman.exe, you had various other classic series and X series inspired netnavies, including Roll.exe. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, sorry, backstep. This is what I get for trying to rush through these things, keep it a steady pace, and do massive info dumps. In Megaman Legends, your character was named Megaman, specifically Megaman Volnut. So, it's a thing. There you go. We're going back to the Megaman-based name basing, kind of like this series with Megaman.exe. Megaman's human counterpart is known as LAN, as in, yes, local area network, tee-hee, puns. Puns are fun. So, you have Megaman Battle Network, Megaman Network Transmission, Megaman Battle Network 2, Megaman Battle Network 3, which had two versions because we are now full-blown in the Pokemon era, in which you can't just make a sequel, you have to make a sequel with variant versions. This will come up again shortly. Look, I get it. For Pokemon, it's kind of one of the things that Pokemon stands out for and is known for. But I hate when other series did that to try to piggyback off Pokemon's popularity. Especially existing series. You know, the Battle Network just did it. Zelda did it with the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. Which, I'll kind of give them, was two full separate games, but they were released as a linked game. Where if you beat one game, you could put a little password thing into the other game, and it would give you extra stuff to start the second game with. My buddies Dragon Quest did that with their Dragon Quest Monsters spin-off series, which we'll definitely talk about in the future, because I love that series, and that series definitely has a lot of Pokemon influence. But yeah, that whole dual game thing, as I say, it's fine for Pokemon, because Pokemon kind of ran with it from the get-go. But I really don't like when other companies do it, and other franchises do it. But they dropped that for the next game, which was Megaman Battleship Challenge. Which had the most amount of gameplay differentiation. For instance, it was the first time players can choose to play as other characters besides Lan, Hikari, and Megaman.exe. And whatever character chosen will compete in a series of tournaments, eventually escalating to either battle against Lan or Lan's rival Eugene. So, yeah. Then we go back to the Pokemon nonsense. Megaman Battle Network 4, Red Sun and Blue Moon. Megaman Battle Network 5, Team Protoman and Team Colonel. And Megaman Battle Network 6, Psybeast Falzar and Psybeast Gregar. Now, the majority of the Battle Network series was released on portables. Kind of like the majority of the Pokemon franchise has existed on portable systems. So again, I get why they thought it would be a good idea. Just don't do these things. Stop it. Let Pokemon do it. That's what Pokemon's known for. Don't piggyback. Now, Megaman NT would get a anime and manga. And all of the games feature much more role-playing influence than platforming influence. So, besides massively rebooting the continuity to give it more of a 21st century digital flavor, they also massively rebooted the gameplay experience, which is a good thing, because if you're going to change one, change the other. Don't just give it a little bit of a flavor tweak, give it a whole new feel. You know, we just broke down a metric ton of platforming Mega Man games. So you want a genre bend? Go for it. And when they did genre bend, they used it to do some storyline overhauling, which is great. I'm not super familiar with the Battle Network games, so I can't get into too much nostalgic memories, but as I said, I will give the series a lot of credit for being willing to do that much reinventing. That's a big risk to take. But when you have a proven license like Mega Man to work with, it takes some of the sting out of it. So we come to the last of our sub-series franchises, and that is Mega Man Star Force. Now, it is set in the same parallel universe as the Battle Network series, but about 200 years after it. Features a new main human character of Geostellar, who joins forces with an alien named Omega Zis to foil evil plots of a alien nature. Now, this game also got real deep in that Pokemon multi-release formula, so bear with me. This is going to be a lot of word dropping, but we're going to do this real quick. Again, I've never played in the Star Force series personally, so it is what it is. But they definitely went full-blown sci-fi by introducing a lot of alien space exploration concepts, which I give them props for. Mega Man Star Force, Dragon Pegasus and Leo. Mega Man Star Force 2, Zerker X Saurian and Zerker X Ninja. And Mega Man Star Force 3, Black Ace and Red Joker. Star Force would also get its own anime and manga, because that's just what these things do. The series was created during Capcom's Mega Man 20-year anniversary and is the 7th Mega Man series created overall. So, having said that, let's do the count off to prove this. Classic, X, Zero, ZX, Legends, Battle Network, and Star Force. That is 7. 7 series, more games than anybody could carry. Covering pretty much every console post-NES. So many games. So, what's your big wrap-up? Well, for my personal flavor, I love the classic series. Running and gunning, platform goodness, Blue Bomber, getting those weapon upgrades from the bosses, playing levels in each style, any order you want to play, exploiting enemy weaknesses to certain weapons, or not if you want to go super challenge mode. You know, it's all fun. The X series was a great sequel and introduced such a rich storyline they were able to get multiple sequel series as out of it. But more importantly, the biggest thing I love about this is, as we saw with the ZX series and the Battle Network series especially, when they do set up new sub-series, Capcom is not afraid to reinvent and reinvigorate and refresh the base concepts. Because if you're not willing to do more than slap on a little new paint, don't bother resetting. You know? If it's just going to be Mega Man doing the old Mega Man thing against Dr. Wily, just call it Mega Man 25 and be done with it. You know? But X gave us Sigma and Vile. Yeah? Who you know, were great villains that could stand against Wily in their evilness. Mostly Sigma. Vile was more of a personal rival sub-boss thing, but, you know. When he didn't show up as often as Sigma, but when he did show up, it was fun times. You know, they were great antagonists in their own right. Legends gave us supplementary character Tron Bonne, who's just so much fun they had to give her her own little spin-off game and put her in crossover games. She's almost as well noted as her counterpart. So, when it's all said and done, what do you got? You got a whole bunch of games in which robots are cyber enhanced, characters save the world. Pick a franchise. As I said, some are more blatantly connected to others, but rest assured, when it's all said and done, you can just enjoy the games without having to study the mythos for days and weeks ahead of time. Big salutes to Capcom. With only 2 franchises, they gave us so much material, it took us 2 episodes. And as I said, we barely scratched the surface. There's still crossover games and spin-offs that I didn't even have time to mention. And there's the future. Who knows what they'll come out with next? But that is the end for me. I appreciate your understanding. A little bit of our altered schedule. And I hope you're going to join me in 7 days. We talk about something else pop culture media fun. I'm thinking a classic movie. We haven't talked about classic movies for a while. We've been a little distracted. You know what? Let's talk about some great movies. Until then, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Like and comment. And remember, you can like something, you can dislike something, but don't spread the hate. Spread constructive criticism. Create back and forth conversations. Not hurt feelings. And ultimately, hey, be good to each other. Next time, folks.